Okay, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. Today we have such a special treat because I have the lovely Vanessa here. And this is going to be the first in a new series that I'm going to be doing where I'm going to be interviewing some of the those women that have been closest to me in my journey over the last few years. And in Vanessa's case, Vanessa is one of my beloved clients that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last few years. And we actually finished, I think, a 3-year journey 6 months ago. And so I am really excited that Vanessa is here today. I'm going to talk about the journey that we went on together. And specifically, you're going to hear in Vanessa's words as we weave through this gorgeous conversation, you're going to hear in her words about what that journey was like for her. So welcome, Van.
Thank you.
So
I'm
good to
so
have
happy to
you.
be here
Yeah, yeah, I'm
for
so
this
happy.
opportunity
Yeah.
to express.
Exactly, exactly. So I would love, Van, if in your words you can just share a little bit about who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll start with when I met Liv. I was training, I was getting my hours to become a therapist. And before that, I'd been compiling all these certifications and different things. I think trying to feel legitimate enough to kind of inhabit this role of what's the word I want? Like accompanying other people through their journeys. And so I can now say that I have this license, and I get to do that, and I get to do it in my way and under the kind of titles of, psychosomatic therapist and spiritual counselor. So that's kind of yeah, the place where I get to take all the wisdom and the jewels that I've received, and I get to share those. I get to continue sharing them, and it's just truly such a joy. And it really comes from a place of, yeah, just I get to share this with people, not from a place of saving, which was I think where I started from, like wanting to save.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think we can all relate to that. I think, those of us that are in the profession of holding other people, guiding, therapists, coaches, spiritual counsel, like there is always somewhat of a small element where it can come from a place of wanting to save and fix. And I think it's actually very well intentioned. And so what a beautiful opener to just kind of name it. Like it started there, but it shifted into something else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, wonderful. So we we need to talk about the beginning and how we met and how did you find me? I know you were just sharing off air the story that I didn't actually know.
Yeah. Um, so a good girlfriend of mine had asked me if I knew a coach.
Mm.
And people tend to come to me for recommendations. And so I think
Mm.
part of like the safe kind of saving thing is I had sort of developed that. And I thought about the other girlfriends in my life, and I had another girlfriend named Alexa, and I just witnessed her in the past, few years at that time just bloom. I mean, she was already an incredible woman, but it had just continued. And I went to her, and she had shared that she had been working with you, and so I passed her name along to my friend. And then the same thing happened to this friend. And I thought, what are they doing? Who are they seeing? So it really came from this place of the ripples of your work through the women themselves. Um, yeah, and I started to get a little curious, like, it was like listen, I would listen to a podcast that Alexa had done, and that's when I heard your voice
Mm.
for the first time. And then I would hear from this other friend, then I would hear, from social media. And so it was just really this like slow, it was really peaking, like lots of little moments of peaking. And then I don't know what it took, but then I decided to join your group programs. And even when I joined the group programs, it felt like I kind of opened the Narnia, where it was just like, oh my God, what are they doing? Um,
Yes.
until I felt comfortable enough to like really be there and sit with you all, and then
Mm,
I felt part of it. And then it took on a life.
yes. So that was the days, I think this is probably 4 years ago, and that was the days of crawl. Was it crawl that you came?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. There were
Yeah.
so, and I wish I could remember all the different container names because they were all so like, they were so great. And for me, so I that was one of the first times too where you could like let a word really mean and hold
Yeah.
something way more than just that word. Yeah.
Yeah, so cruel at that time. So, for those of you that don't know my full history, I did a long period of time, 5 or 6 years. I was sort of mostly just doing group programs for women, and I had about 12 different programs that I did over that time. I had a kind of suite of different programs that I offered for women, and they all had a slightly different theme that we would work on. And crawl was one of the central bodies of work. And this was really like really calling women into embodiment, really calling women into the um really calling them into themselves. But it was like also really about surrender. Like literally crawl was kind of like it was quite intense when I think back to that era. And, we had a really amazing group of women at that time. And at that time, you could come in and I had sort of levels. So I think you came in at the first level. Yeah. And that was, I love this sort of story of, just listening and hearing from other women and witnessing. I think it's really powerful when you see a woman you know and trust receive something, commit to herself, start transforming, and you're like, hang on a minute, like what is she doing? And then you see
Yeah.
someone else, and you know and trust that woman as well. I think that happens a lot, and so that journey of hearing from other women and sort of other women saying, this is something that I'm enjoying, and I'm actually really I'm getting a lot from my journey, and I've committed to this thing, and then the impact it has on you as the other person is it just sort of cultivates a curiosity. And I love that you took your time and then
Yeah.
you came in, with the first bite,
Yeah.
at the very beginning.
Yeah, it felt like I was allowed to do that. And it allowed me to really work through some things. I think in the past there was a sense of I'm not ready, and then feeling like opportunities, I would miss them and then they would be gone forever. And this was really a space, and you were really a person who would give me the message like, you're not ready, it's okay. Let me know when you are.
Yes.
Um, and
Yes.
I really needed, when I look back, I'm like, wow, I really needed a lot of time. I don't know, I really needed that time to get to feel comfortable so that I could do it without overriding all the parts of me that needed something or needed to go slower. And that in and of itself was such a gift because I think I lived my life in overriding
Yes.
everything all the time in order to just do. And this was such a different mode
Mm. Mhm.
that was accepted, that was maybe even more accepted by you than me at first. Like I think I at first really criticized the pace, but it was such a gift to go at my true pace, to even understand that that was a concept and that if I went at my true pace, that would benefit me,
Yes. Yes.
you know?
Oh, that is such an important principle. Like
Hmm.
your readiness and your pace is yours, and no one else actually needs to dictate that for you.
Hmm.
I think that is so. I can remember when I learned that and, like heard it and then really felt what it was like to live that way. And it is something that takes some getting used to, like you're like, oh, this is really different to I'm an overrider. I'm like, let's go, bitches. And then suddenly it's like, no, you can take the first bite and take your time, and your readiness and your trust of yourself here, it matters. And you knowing for yourself is more important than me knowing that for you.
Mhm.
So it's really lovely, like when you're reflecting that specific piece, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that that was how you experienced that time. Yeah, that's like a lovely way to come in.
Yeah, it was. And I also from you really received the I think you're ready. What do you think? Like there were moments where you would I guess I really needed your attention and your eyes because I was still learning to read those signals inside of me of readiness. And so you were part of helping me feel into that and now I can recognize it more on my own. But in the moment I really wasn't all that sure what that meant. Like, because there was desire there was curiosity, but then there was also fear, then there was also logistics and like having to really consider all of these things and know they're all important. Just that whole process was such a gift.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
And you remember when you first came in, what was the thing you were there for? Like if you could put it in words
Mm.
at the very beginning. So I know that there was a big evolution and over the years, but at the very beginning, can you remember
Yeah,
woman? Can you remember who you were then?
I feel far away from that, which is interesting. Like even in who I am today, I feel like I still have that inside of me, but I feel far away, which is kind of cool in a sense of like, wow, I'm so far from that. Um, but I think at the time, I really was still focused on getting things and making things happen. I was still like very goals oriented and it was a lot about the results. And I think at the time, I really thought this would help me be more like efficient, productive. I could create my startup if I did this, like I think I really saw it as a means to something. And then as I arrived and I let myself be transformed by this work, um, it's completely shifted. And so I think, there are probably subconsciously things I came in for. Like when I think of these two friends, to me, they feel so true to themselves. They feel, or like that is so important to them to stay connected to that and to create things in the world that are an expression of their they both would use such different language, but like their dharma or their creative current, like whatever that thing is inside that needs to express, they're so connected to that and devoted to that. And I think that's what I wanted. Like it, maybe, yeah, I think I wanted to unburden myself of whatever was keeping me from creating, like living a life in which I'm connected to myself and creating on a regular basis.
Mm,
Really stands out to me as like I think I wanted that too. I just wouldn't have been able to. I don't think I had that language. And then the other thing that is such a gift that I think I wanted but didn't know how to verbalize was I don't think I knew myself. I don't think I had an intimate relationship with myself. I don't think I really understood what was underlying a lot of my behavior, like what was driving it. Being still was really not comfortable.
yeah.
Um, and I can say now I have a very important relationship with myself. And I have the skill to quiet things down and listen. And I'm really not afraid of myself. And so I think before I was really running from myself in a variety of ways or running from things I was feeling in my body. Whereas now I'm really not running away from myself. If anything, I have so much appreciation for this vessel,
Mm,
for all of its for the desire, which was like new vocabulary for me and how I can use that to help guide my direction for what my heart needs, feels, for what my womb is trying to tell me. Um,
mm.
Yeah, so to me, that's like, I think in the end, that's probably what I was searching for because I came in with a lot of like physical pain that I think I was running from. And I think the pain in the end was really trying to just bring me back into my body. And like, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Like, I've come back in it. I'm in this vessel and I love it.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like a joy to be in this vessel.
Yeah. I just want to give space for that, like what you've just shared, because that's a huge journey.
Yeah.
The fear of being with the self, the fear of the self, the, the pain and like being in some kind of chronic pain. And this is so common for people, like a lot of us experience these things. And um, a kind of admission, like that's really honest to admit. I didn't really have an intimate relationship with myself. I couldn't really understand what was the root beneath some of my behavior,
Mm.
right? So it's, one of the things that has really always been important to me in creating containers, whether that's with one person or 20 people, 5 people, is that that container can hold that
Mm.
and that you can actually slowly and in your own time turn towards some of these places that, what I hear often is quite hard to do that on your own, right? To do some of these things where you're, maybe you don't have the skills yet. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't know them yet. You need to learn the skills. Maybe you don't have the courage. Maybe you don't have the support. Maybe you don't have the right question. Maybe you don't have the right um, space, right? And so I really think of container creation as a sort of sacred home for the
Mm.
self. So whatever it is that you need to look at, there's permission and space. You might not be ready yet, but it's there if you need it. And so I think it's so beautiful the way you've expressed that. And I'm sure people listening to it that either have walked that journey themselves or feel like they want to and really need to can kind of sense the possibility that it is possible.
It is.
Yeah.
Um, and like you said, just it brings me back to needs. Like
Yeah.
I needed a variety of things for that to be possible. I needed to see it first. That was
Mm,
something I needed. I needed to see it over there and over there and over there. And I had to be curious or be interested. I had to like it. Like I had to go, I want that, you know?
right. Yeah.
Um, and then I had to see like, well, what does it take? Like, what does it look like? And then I needed that safe home.
Mm,
Um, I needed options. I needed time. Like there were really all these things I needed for that to be possible.
right.
You know,
Yes.
now I know like yeah, now I have all these options. I'm like, oh, okay, I might need more time. I might need more rest. I might need inspiration. I might need like it's just given me a template for options of like things I could need in
Mm,
any moment. Like even that was just like I needed to learn that.
yeah.
Outside of like I think my tools in the past were I need to schedule this. Like I need to do more. I need to learn more. Um,
Mm,
like I had a very limited kit of options.
yeah.
And now my kit is so like there's so much in my kit.
Yeah.
You know, like there's so much and it's yeah, I have so many options. That's like another thing connecting me to options, like remembering that I have options.
Oh, I've got like tingles in my whole skin
Yeah.
because women, we need to remember that we have many options, right? That like there are things available to us.
Yeah.
There isn't just one way to do something or to be.
So many options. And
Yeah.
like I remember I have multiple memories of us in session where something was happening in my life where and again I wouldn't have had the words, but you gave me this visual where it was like I was effectively feeling like I had no options and I was in the dark and I was alone.
Hmm.
That was like my experience. And that could be either because I couldn't see a solution or I just felt lost or I didn't know where to ask for help. And then you would like slowly kind of take me out and show me like all the you'd give me a flashlight, you'd come in with me, and it was like, let's look, and then I would remember all of my options, but there are moments where I would really forget, like you
Mm.
really feel like you have no options. So yeah, giving me a visual was important. Now I can recognize, oh, I'm starting to feel like I have no options and I'm alone and I'm in the dark.
Mm.
And then I remember that that's typically not where anything happens. Like, and maybe sometimes I need to be there for a little bit and like then I can curl up and I can be there and I can still feel safe in that moment.
Mm.
But that's usually not from where I create change,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've done such a gorgeous job of explaining that experience of really feeling alone and sat in the dark and like dark, no options, no light, just here, me and this problem.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about being held and also having somebody in there with you. And hey, like, why don't we try this? And like, hey, like, let's look through this different window and we're in this together. And I think that there's, whenever I'm speaking to, um, whenever I'm onboarding potential new clients to work with, I often will say, this is a collaborative journey and we are in this together. And so I'm committed and you're committed, and it's your life's journey that we're navigating together. And I bring all of my skills, and you bring all of your skills, and we're working together. And it's not this, I will exist as an embodied example of possibility and ways of doing things, and I'll bring my wisdom and I'll bring my wizard box, and we'll work with that. But this isn't that, you're lacking and I have something that you don't have. It's we're working together to so you can remember and you can access things were already there within you. And if there's skills you need to learn, I'm going to say, hey, like take this brush and go and practice that, but I really want to emphasize, and I think you did this so beautifully, that it doesn't come from this place of lack, but it also doesn't mean you don't have problems that need solving,
Mhm.
right? And that in a collaborative relationship, so much, we can really go further quicker together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that, like, again, other, like, through just the experience of doing this together, such gifts of, um, I really came in very, like, fixated on solving problems. And to your point, like, it wasn't having to completely get rid of that, but was to really acknowledge where I felt challenged and stuck, but to approach it from such a different place, like one in which I wasn't defective, one in which I hadn't already failed just by having that problem.
Yes.
So, and that was really like the starting point was learning to be with the things that are needing my attention. So even my language is different. It's like something needs my attention, not something is wrong. Um, yeah, and just I guess noticing like where the shame lived, because the shame was often what would keep me alone, or not looking at it, or not wanting to admit it needed attention. And there was just such a sense of like we can look at anything, and um, yeah, even just that expression, like it's just a skill. You can build that. Like that one, it rings true.
Yes.
Like I really, there have been so many moments where, yeah, I can absolutely build these skills and I have, and I believe anyone can.
Mhm.
So just that, like
Yeah.
that it's possible,
Yes.
you
Yeah. It
know?
reminds me of like we can change and transform through shame, or we can change and transform through love.
Yeah.
And they're so different.
So different, so different. Yeah. And I've like really now made a choice. One, because I think it's more effective for me. Like I find it so much more effective to like love things and to change, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that has been such a perspective shift for me. And it's really trickled into my work. Like it's really had me see that so much of what I've learned in my sort of more psychological training program or psychology training, you really are taught to look at yourself like as broken and defective or as deficient or as lacking or like in a way that's unchanging, you know? And so this is just such a whole new perspective, like to love all my parts, to love and understand all my shadows and Even my behaviors that you think are the thing that need to change. It's like it's kind of funny now, like when I even things like I'm trying to think of the things that are kind of more relatable, but even something like emotional eating, like I now like look at the food and I'm like, wow, like you've served the role of providing comfort for so long, like, and many people have needed that. So just that like has totally changed, or my relationship to needing order and structure, like instead of making that bad, it's like to have, I don't know, I feel a lot of gratitude towards the tools that I used, even in the extreme because that's what I had at the time,
Yeah.
And like now I have different tools and I can use different things, but it's just, yeah, it's totally changed my relationship to myself, my behavior.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
And
love the way that you're not shitting on like what got you there or like where you came from. You're like, that to me is really what integration is you learn to see things from the past or the way you used to do things or an old pattern through this lens of acceptance rather than, oh, look at me over here, I'm doing all this good work and I'm changing, but like the way I did it before, or that thing, that trigger, or that is
yeah.
wrong and bad.
Yeah. And that used to be such an instinct. Like it was really the first response to make things wrong or bad. It was because I thought that was the first step to change,
Yeah.
That was like the model I had. But I just don't find that that really works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want us to speak about the time when um well, there's two things I want to talk about. One,
Yeah.
because I want us to talk about when you made the deep dive commitment. But do you remember when
Yeah.
you first came in and you had we don't necessarily talk through all the details, but you had the conflict of interest
Yes.
in the
Yes.
casino. And do you want to speak a little bit like what that was like for you?
Yeah. So I joined Crawl and I hadn't yet like fully even because even just logging on to respond was already like it took me to even do that was like it required a bit of courage. Like that even felt confronting. So I wasn't even familiar with, all the women in it and just that. And then I'm working for a practice, therapy practice in New York, and we hire a new intern. And so and I think I'm charged with like not interviewing her, but just making her feel more comfortable, letting her know if she has questions, she can ask me, whatever. And I was having fun using all my new language from Crawl. I like had this new concept of container and desire and approval, whatever. I had all this fun new vocab that I was really like using in my daily life. And um, I don't know if I should name names, but this colleague at the time, I think started to catch on and was like, "Are you in Olivia's container?" And I go, "Yes." And I, at the time, again, such a newbie, like not aware that we all kind of like get totally emotionally naked in this place. I'm thinking like, oh, great, like awesome. And I could sense in her just worry, like major, like, uh-oh, okay. And it's only, I mean, and hearing her speak about it because that she had really revealed herself in this container that like, wow, like you don't usually do that with your work colleagues. And so I had no idea what I was in for. Right, like it's only then, like it's only a year later where I realized, wow, I can so understand the how confronting it is to be the intern at some place where someone is going to fully see you like that.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
And I will say this person was such an example for me and like how you bring all of your parts to all the places. Like I also would have assumed that maybe I would kind of present a version of myself that was like yeah, just not, I don't know, I'm doing this because I'm imagining I would like shave away all my like edges and like
Mm,
just come in super plain and vanilla to my boss. But I think we both got really lucky and we actually had an employer who really encouraged us to
yeah.
show up authentically and to bring our true selves. So I think in the end it was such a healing experience for all of us, but it was also a moment of like, wow, what are the chances that a woman in the same container as me is now working at the same company? And honestly, what a blessing
Yeah.
it was for both of us.
I just
I
love
feel
I love this story so much. I think that I have such respect and admiration for the both of you and the way you navigate it. Um, and on both sides, it's so vulnerable. And I really appreciate what you're saying of like, you didn't really know yet. You hadn't really been in the container.
Yeah, I was like, what's the big deal?
You're like,
Relax.
okay. And actually, it really speaks to like multiple things. One being the willingness that you and um, this other beautiful woman and all the other beautiful women in the container were willing to do and willing to reveal of themselves. And I think that, I love that phrase, emotional nakedness. And it really is what this kind of work does ask of somebody. It does invite you to reveal and maybe reveal things about yourself that um, are maybe the first time you're ever sharing it. And um, maybe you're working something out in front of other people that you don't feel resolution on. Maybe you're messy, and when we're in our professional role and when we're most people have some of that compartmentalized, and so it makes sense that it's going to hit that edge of, is this okay? And what do we do about this? And I just, I witnessed the healing that was available. And it really shows in life. We just never know. We never know what vulnerability and what sort of unusual set of circumstances life might offer us on the path. And do
Hmm.
we embrace it and, get honest and um or do we run away from that kind of discomfort? And I really loved the way that both of you really leaned in, and especially our lovely friend, and she was deeper on her path, and then you just joining. And I think it also speaks so deeply to the commitment that you had to your path, and like um I love when you're like, oh, a year later I was like, oh, okay. And that's true. I do think that that was the group work era. We will talk in a minute about when that shifted for you and I, but in the group work era, there is something. Some people get a bit scared of group work because of this exact reason. I'm going to be exposed in front of other women. Maybe, sometimes we have issues with other women and other women are intimidating, or other women we compare ourselves. And there's just all this opportunity to look at our relationship to another woman and then compare ourselves or understand ourselves differently. And I think that I have seen that it offers such immense transformation to be with other women who are emotionally naked and are as willing as you are to dive deep into some of the more uncomfortable parts of themselves. And then you get to do it together.
Yeah.
You're not alone in it. And you can say, wow, that woman's, I so understand. That brave woman has just shared something in front of the group, and I so relate to that. I thought I was the only one.
Mhm.
And then you see everyone's nodding and you're like, oh, maybe all of them. Oh, okay. There's something really profound about that. So I just want to kind of reflect to you the gratitudes for your embrace, and then also just a reminder of what you bought, and what every individual person brings to a group experience is really significant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the group work live is like still to this day one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. And I miss it all the
Mhm.
time. I still, what's so great, it's like a gift that keeps on giving because what's so special is we're all in such different places, even though there's so much overlap. But what's fun is it's like maybe in a year I'll go, oh, now I get it. Like it gave me just like it showed me women in so many different moments and it gave me a reference and an example of how you move through that and again more options and more understanding, more compassion. And at the beginning it really showed me like, oh wow, I'm not comfortable with women at all, like I'm highly judgmental, so like being confronted with my own, like I had to recognize that I wasn't really a safe space for women who weren't expecting of me to save them. This was really a space where we were all like we all understood we have ourselves and we all can ask for help and we can share. And there wasn't kind of like the model of female relationships based on saving or complaining. Not, I don't like the word complaining, but like trauma bonding, let's put it.
Yeah.
That was like a whole new kind of way of relating amongst women for me. So just that as an example was really new, but also I like that way of relating. Like it showed me a new way of connecting.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there's a
yeah.
like educational piece when women are invited to coexist together in this kind of space and really like back each other in a way that's like, hey, I see your power. You're a powerful woman, and we're going to relate to each other through our power versus, some of the conditioning. It's really common for women to connect through a sort of commiseration of, who's struggling the most. And I think it is true that we have a hard time sometimes, and I'm not discounting that, but it also is true that sort of socially we're often conditioned, um, especially in the culture I was raised in, to, you know, as women, um, play ourselves down rather than open ourselves up to the beauty and the brilliance of our entire selves. And so there's a real invitation in my world to be big and to be expressed and to be emotive and to bring some of those dormant parts or maybe more dormant, more unexpressed parts in the room and allow other women to feel that and to not kind of and if that's uncomfortable for somebody else, to not save her from that experience, like allow her to be uncomfortable and grow through that, because it happens out in the real world, so we might as well do it here where we can be held through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that again, another gift I didn't even ask for. Like, I think as sort of having a pattern of people pleaser coming in, a
Yeah.
lot of my how I would decide how I operated was based on like who's uncomfortable and how can I make them less uncomfortable. Where you kind of like have a sense of what you think will trigger people and then you act in a way to not trigger anyone, which I now embrace as a superpower, like a sensory superpower, but now, like the moments I've been uncomfortable and I've been trusted to be with that and to turn that into something else are the times I've grown and those are the times I've claimed more of myself and times I've expanded my self-acceptance, actually. And so I'm really thankful now to be in spaces like that where I was trusted to be with my own reactions and discomfort, and I was given the tools to move through it. And it is again, it's like such a gift. And now I'm like, who am I to take that away from someone? Like, I really see the disrespect. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like, I really see the major disrespect, like, in that. Like, who am I to do that to someone?
Very
Like,
real.
now that I see the precise intelligence of my discomfort and triggers, like, I'm not going to take that away. But I also recognize we need tools to hold that and understand that, or else it's can feel really victimizing. Like
Yes.
I think I came from constant discomfort without tools, and that's really it's not comfortable to live like that. So I'll pause there, but yeah, just that it was such a rich, like it was just an incredible thing you created.
Mhm.
Ecosystem, like it was a little home. I don't know. It felt like a, a dreamland with a palace and like lots of little beautiful courtyards.
Well,
Yeah, it was really special.
mm, thank
Thank
you. Thank you. Yeah, so in like practically what Vanessa's speaking about is my online school. I mentioned earlier that I had various
you.
different programs and paths that you could take. And I will share that last year I decided to take a sabbatical and take some time off. And so we'll get to that because it was right in the middle of our journey, and then it really created quite a profound shift for you and I. But let's talk about your original commitment to the deep dive. So you and I had been working together for, I want to say, a year, 18 months. And,
Mhm.
I'll say on my side, there's kind of, sometimes women that come in and there's a sort of certain ingredient that we have in our relationship where for me it feels clear, like you mentioned, like I think this woman might be ready for something deeper. And I know the depth and the magnitude of the work and what it can offer someone. And it's sort of, I'm often sensing into people, you know, is it right for them? And um I remember me feeling that with you. I can't remember if you felt it first or I felt it first. I think maybe I had felt it first. But at the time, as I mentioned, I had my group programs, and I had the kind of deepest program I offered was a 2-year deep dive. And this was sort of like a very high level, very intimate mastermind. And at the time it had 6 women in it. And, big up those women. We love you so much. What a crew. At the time I was taking my first 6 women through this program. And they were united in this group, but it also was an opportunity to take every program that I offered and to be on this very deep journey with me, guiding and mentoring you, through 2 years of your life. So I remember feeling like, I think this actually might be the right thing for Van. And so I remember us kind of initially talking about it, but let's talk through for you, your journey of, feeling it for the first time, feeling that call, if you call it that, and then it ultimately you saying yes, and what that journey was like for you.
Yeah. I remember looking at these 6 women and thinking like, no, they're way cooler. Like, it felt like little sister, big sister kind of perspective. And that was part of it where I didn't feel like I belonged. So a lot of it was like, no, I'm not that courageous. I'm not that creative. I'm not that, sorry, look, I'm getting um, I really compared myself and I felt and I was making the assessment based off that comparison. I'm not at that level. I'm not ready. And there was some wisdom in that. Like there was definitely a lot of fear, but there was a sense of I don't think I was willing to invest in myself at that level at that time.
Yeah.
So what it was
I
showing me
want to
was,
say it was a big investment on
yeah,
multiple levels, the time, the money, the energy. It was a big, big thing to say yes to. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I could feel that. And it's true. It was the commitment to the time and daring to protect that time in my schedule, which was difficult for me at that time. Like I remember I would like schedule every 15 minutes just to feel productive and okay, so yeah, at that time that was challenging. To commit to a call was challenging for me. And I think for me, time zone one, it was maybe like in the middle of the day. So it was also partially that. And then yeah, financially, like I think in the past I needed to know like what I would make as a return. And so this was such a different concept of like, oh, I'm investing in myself in a way that I can't measure with dollars. Like, am I willing to do that at this level? And for a while I wasn't. So I had to really wait until I could feel a yes. And that was my body said that to me. Like it was a full body yes. But there were a few no's or like, I don't know, along the way. And I remember there was one call where we kind of did a check-in to see if I was like feeling ready. Um, and Liv had shared the expression like to come under her wing. And I really had, this, and also I was in like Upper East Side in like a park with lots of people that were homeless and lots of birds. It was just like so chaotic. And I heard her say that and I just thought, no, like I can't do that. I was too scared. Like to let you care for me in that way was really too vulnerable for me. Um, and I had to admit that that's where I was. And so it was like another, oh no. And then maybe a few months later, I can't remember exactly when I started, but a few months later, I just started to feel more ready. And we had another call, and I still came in with the feelings of feeling not less than, but like, yeah, in some ways less than, like, oh, I'm not as this, I'm not as that. But I thought, okay, at least I'll learn, like, and I remember I would often like speak last or so that's where I started. But at least I came with all my stuff and I thought I'm gonna do it anyways.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I'm going to take all these feelings with me anyways.
Yeah. Beautiful. What do you
Yeah.
think for you, like, what do you think for you shifted your readiness to be like, no, like I can't kind of be cared for in this way
Mm.
to I'm gonna give myself this because it is something that is a lot to give someone. When I think about my own journey of committing to, I've done my fair share of deep commitments to myself and been held in various ways. And every time it's been so vulnerable. And especially for me, it's always hit this sort of worthiness. Am I worth this? And can I allow myself to be cared for in this way? So I'm curious if you could like speak and have, or if you have language around shifting from that place of not feeling ready to receive that or experience that, and then saying, yeah, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. A few things I think played into that. One of the things we were learning, or I felt like I was really taking away was responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think desire felt unsafe or like not a safe thing to follow because I didn't have like a clean relationship with responsibility. And so we really, those to me were skills we worked. Like,
Yeah.
what would it require, this thing I want to have it? What would that mean practically? And am I willing to commit to that? Whether that's some kind of financial organization or plan, or, the impact of the schedule, the meetings on my work schedule. And I think for a long time, was like, oh, I can't even have it. It's too big. And then I had to really sit with, no, I want it. What is it going to take? Am I a yes to that? And what I realized is that actually it's possible. So part of it was like really sitting with my desire and asking of it, like, what do you need, or what does it need for it to be real? And it was possible. Like
Yeah.
I could do it. I can make the time. I can pay for this,
Mm.
and I want it. And then it was like, well, then what else? I think I had to arrive there of like, no, it's possible.
Yeah.
And the unworthiness I think fits into that because I think before even asking myself these questions of if it's possible, the unworthiness would come in first. Oh,
Mm.
if I really want it, then oh no, you
Yeah.
know, I I would shut it down so quickly when I really wanted something that
Mhm.
felt big.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really had to learn these other skills and this process of, and I had to develop a relationship, yeah, with desire, with responsibility, and I love your phrase, like being in relationship with reality. Like a lot of the times my no's and my yeses weren't in relationship with my reality. It was like my no would come from fear and unworthiness, and my yes would come from, fuck it, why not? Which was like not super responsible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now my yes and my no come from, I mean, very different places.
Yeah. What's so
Yeah.
beautiful about what you're saying is on entry to this big commitment, 2-year commitment, you had the skills, the time, the courage to work yourself all the way to eventually you became an embodied yes. Maybe not knowing whether you were going to be an embodied yes, but you got to an embodied place where for you it felt clear. You could make that
Mhm.
decision. And I think that's such a beautiful example of, and um, I think this is true for anyone that works and understands the kind of nature of desire is it sort of leads us somewhere and we don't really understand why. And we do need to get all of our parts on board. But there is a point where we have to say yes.
Yeah.
And I think you said it so beautifully that like in the work you do get to understand the difference between a true no and a true yes. And it's something I'm always looking out for when I'm enrolling people into these journeys. They're so deep and intimate. Are they a body yes? And maybe mentally they need some time to just, do the maths and figure out the time and sort of work with any fears and practical things that might come up because that's normal. We're human being. We're making a time and financial and energetic investment into something huge. We want to kind of have our T's and I's crossed. But sometimes people are sometimes it's the other way around where someone's like, yep, 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 I'm in. Woo, yeah, great. And then like their body's not actually in, but their mind is jumped on because it thinks it's a great idea. And then they're usually like, yeah, actually, no, it's a no. I decided not to do this. And so I think it's really important, working, especially in the way I like to work, which is deep and over the long term with people, that process of getting yourself from A to B is one that we take our time with, and it takes what it takes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's helping me see that. And I saw this at the time too, and I'm trying to remember. I don't know if it was a question that was asked in the group container, but I became aware that I was repeating a pattern with practitioners specifically where I would meet them and maybe get excited. And the hope there was like, they're going to give me the missing piece, they're going to fix me. And so my yes would sometimes come from that place of like, whatever, honestly, a bit of desperation, like, yes, whatever. And then I, of course, inevitably would maybe get one puzzle piece and I, of course, would not be fixed. And then I would leave with this feeling of major disappointment and also having not really respected like what was really in range for me.
Right.
Um, and so I really went into this with you, really not wanting to repeat that and like believing that there could be a completely different dynamic between us that would be the foundation for our work and how it would feel after. And yeah, yeah. And this touches just generally like on relationship to money and resources and like the ways that I was spending. And this is really one of those moments where it was a really big investment, but it was so intentional and it was so considered and um yeah, I really feel like I received like way more than I put in, and only I would be able to say that. Like I make the call on that,
Yeah, that's right.
you know?
Yeah, that's right. It's such a gorgeous example of a woman trusting yourself, trusting herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these definitely are some of the areas where we need to trust our own leadership with the decisions we make. Yeah. So we dive into our 2 years together, and we have our first year together with the group. So you come into the group, and I just remember such a gorgeous addition, and it felt so right from the like immediately, like Vanessa is supposed to be here, and it was so um so lovely that it really felt so organic to have you there. And I know you were saying, in the beginning you were kind of like sitting maybe a little bit at the back and putting a hand up last, but it felt so good to have your journey overlap with theirs in the way that it did. And so we had that first year of group work. And how do you remember that time?
Mm. What I mean, I almost just to say like I really miss those
I
gatherings.
know I do as
Like just now I'm like, oh my gosh, like I looked forward
well.
to every call. It was really such a joy and pleasure and not in like a bubbly excited way. It was just like we get to be here together in this very specific space and
Yeah,
do our thing. And
yeah,
I really looked forward to that and it really became part of like what filled me up during that time.
yeah,
Um it was
yeah.
really cool. Like it really nourished me so much at that time.
Mm,
Yeah, and just hearing the different women, and then I remember because I'm remembering a few calls where one I would cry, which was like really new for me, where I would feel emotion. So it was really a space where I felt safe enough to release in that way. But also it was a really confronting space. It allowed me to really be honest with myself and what I wanted and the desires I had, the things I like a lot of grief came up.
Mm,
Um, my control, like I felt very confronted by just the ways I would control and grip and point and really I was so lovingly reoriented back towards myself in
mm,
a way that would always give me peace and like I felt so grateful after, even if in the moment it's like, oh, of course I have to look back at me. Um, yeah,
mm.
I have so much fond love.
Yeah,
I just, it was a joy.
yeah. It was such a special time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
It really
Even
was. Yeah.
just like the writing, like even when I would just go back onto I think at the time it was Mighty
Yeah,
Network,
yeah, yeah.
and you would share daily prompts, like just going and reading people's answers or even going and writing. Like it just was such an amazing digital, virtual, spiritual home.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for putting it in those words. Yeah, I think that, the kind of I'll speak to that time. It was a really special time. And, I hold dear every single container. I love group work, and it's not something I'm offering currently. It is something that's brewing again to come back in the future in new ways. But that time, you speak with such fondness, and I also feel the same way. And it's lovely to remember that. So thank you for bringing it in. That um, you know, I'm. I think it was a special time for all of us to be. I think back to that, and think back to the gift of holding every single woman in that room. And ultimately we cultivated that space together. We were all part of that together. And so I know that, so what happened was, I think you were a year in. I think the other ladies were at the end of their 2 years, and you were in your just coming to the end of your first year, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm incorrect in my memory. I had, as lots of people know, I was going through something very big, and I was very clear that I needed to take a pause. And it was a very scary inner knowing to hear that. I am very much kind of led through my own inner guidance. And that's obviously what I encourage and teach in my work with women. I have to live and breathe that myself. And at that time, I felt so clear that I needed to pause, and I needed to close the doors to my online school. And this was a very kind of unexpected change. It wasn't planned. And I remember at the time, um, feeling clear that I wasn't going to be working with people in a group capacity, and that would change our work together. But I remember feeling I felt so strongly that we were meant to continue, and we were meant to see the 2 years through together, and that we were meant to adapt and change. And so I call this time in my journey with you specifically the sacred thread, because I ended up not working with anybody else. It was just my work with you. And
Mm.
so, and I know that transition, I hear how you speak about the group work and how dear that was to you. And it was just kind of this bittersweet thing that it changed, this thing that was so nourishing and sacred, was no longer going to exist. I felt heartbroken over it. And I know that for you, that was a hard thing as well. So what was it like when, when I first announced this, before you and I had really sort of decided what we were going to do?
Mhm.
Remember that?
I do. I do. And I don't know that this is the order in which I felt it, but the thing that I remember and still to this day like had such an impact on me was you walking your talk and the permission that that gave me to take pauses was,
Mm,
I mean, you gave me permission. So that was really just another way in which you role modeled for me what it really means to listen and trust. Um, so yeah, I think, and honestly, I remember also having the thing like, I'm not surprised. Like, how do you do this? I really often remember thinking like, how could you show up so consistently holding so many women? And you have so many different spaces of like creation and commitment. And I did wonder, like I assumed it must cost you a lot. So there is probably a part of me that was like, yeah, yeah, I get it. Like, I'm so glad you're doing this.
mm,
And for sure there was, a lot of, it's an interesting one. Like there was a part of me that I think knew that needed to end because I could feel myself. I don't know what this is, maybe going a little too ahead of myself, but when you did share the idea of working together, um, I felt like my new edge was, oh, I need special attention. Like you know, and like the group work to a degree allowed me to, I didn't need to be seen the whole time. And like it did
yeah,
allow me, because I was still kind of hiding and, you
yeah.
know, I was doing my little thing. And so this, I kind of felt like, no, this is like the next thing for me, like to receive complete attention. But yeah, I really miss the group to this day, but I also know that it's not necessarily something that needs to go on forever. Like there really was a sense of part of what was so special was like because it was this little moment in time. And, you know, if anything, the reminder is to just come together with women. Like
Mm,
that for me was just I need that in my life.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'll pause
Yeah.
there.
I love what you said about the special attention because I felt that too. I was like, okay, so I'm going to take the sabbatical and I'm going to close down my school and I'm going to, the doors are going to be closed to my programs. And, I know some people were disappointed and, I really didn't know. I wasn't saying, hey, we're back in 3 months. I was like, I just got to pause. And it is true, the cost of holding others is very high. And I think that there's so much learning involved of how to do it in a way that's sustainable and how to do it in a way that, gives you the opportunity to live a life. And I was also going through a huge life transition. I was leaving Paris where I'd built my life, and I was really wanting to I was moving home back with my family. And I always really wanted to make space in my own life for um my personal journey. I know I needed some time to recalibrate personally, and I value that very highly. And so, um, I remember being like, okay, what are our options? Going back to we have many options. And I remember feeling into you and, the commitment that we'd both made. And I was like, it feels perfect for Vanessa that the option is one to one and that you're going to have this specialized, more honed in, can't really hide as easily attention. You were engaged to be married. You were also going through your big transition with your career, about to get licensed. Like there was so many huge themes coming up in your life. I was like, this is a divine orchestration from the universe, And so I remember, I remember that feeling um, remember that feeling clear. And then I think it took us a while to find the right way to work together one to one and like what felt good. And I so appreciated that time where we kind of went back and forth for a while, being like, what would feel true to do together? What do you really need? And how could I design something? It really was one of those rare times where I could say, we can kind of do anything. And so I remember we designed this way of working together where we would, work together kind of every other week, but then we would have these deep dives for multiple hours, sometimes full days, right? Where we'd workshop and retreat. And, you could bring these big topics and we could like get into it for hours and, really kind of co-create and dismantle and things like that. So And I know for you there was just so much going on in your life last year as we worked together. So, what is the kind of thing that you remember about switching to one work and the difference in from where we'd come from?
Yeah. It did, I just to echo, it did feel really, again, divine orchestration is just the perfect
Yeah.
words for it. Because even for a while, I remember I would have the little voice that was like, "Oh, why didn't you sign up a year before for the group?" And then when this happened, I was like, because I needed this year to myself. Like, so even that it's like it helped me almost make peace with again my pace that like in the end often ends up being really perfect for me and it's often only in looking back that I can realize that. So I also had this sense and with you and I feel like there have just been so many what feel like miraculous little synchronicities and mirrors. And so I really felt so supported energetically and spiritually to really create something with you this next year. And yeah, and I know one of the things that I remember being difficult for me at the beginning because there were so many options was to ask for more. Like it and you allowed me to do that. Like there was such permission to really give you feedback and to let me know what felt like enough and when I needed things shorter or longer or deeper or again, there was just so much room to create together. And I would say that was not in my comfort zone at the beginning. Like it really took me, which again, I'm grateful for because I worked through whatever blocks I had to speak up about what I needed and wanted or what thought would be not fun to do, but like necessary for me at that time. And we did that. So it was this, for me, a rare experience of creating something for me with someone and like what a gift. And that has also really informed the way I work now. Like what a blessing to have something designed for you when you're going through a very specific thing in your life. I wish that for everyone, you know?
Truly.
Such a level of care, presence, support, that I don't think I've ever had.
Mm.
Um, so even and receiving that was we worked on the theme of receiving and I even feel my heart kind of ache a bit now, like or my chest. Like it really worked me on being able to receive support because it was there. Like you were really letting me know I'm here.
Mm.
Let me know. And it was really on me to say what I needed. Um and how.
It
So that
sounds
was
um
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, it
Thank you.
sounds
No,
like
say
you
thank you.
yeah had the opportunity to design the right kind of support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even like admitting it's almost like it took me a long time to really admit I needed it because it so happened that you proposed this idea for the 1 year, but I don't know that I would have offered myself that. So that was like an additional piece of the like
Mm.
timing. The gift of the timing was I don't know that I would have given myself this level of support hadn't it been an option to me. And that's part of what's so fun is now I live in this world where I'm I get these things
Yeah.
from people. Like it's not all on me, even this interview.
Mm.
I was sharing with Liv like a few weeks ago, like, oh, I really have or I didn't share it actually. I had felt the desire to be interviewed, and I was going to ask my sister because I wanted to just talk about this amazing past few years. And then Liv offered it to me, and I'm like, oh. So yeah, just another example of like doing less work, giving myself everything, and like really letting people
Mm.
be here for me.
Yeah, it's so gorgeous. And I think you have such a beautiful blueprint of this. And I know that lots of women can relate, like, being a person with needs and, like you can kind of have it how you need it. Like, how do you need it? You're like, okay, well, let me feel into that and actually then find my voice and express that. And I think that I loved this particular phase of your journey because I saw with my own eyes, week on week, as our relationship deepened and our trust together deepened, as it does over time, like the deeper we go, the more we trust each other, the more we know one another, and the deeper we can go together. I really witnessed this in you, finding your voice and trusting your voice and using it and speaking it. And ultimately, that leading you to more of life and more receiving and more of the things that you actually, wanted and had, intentionally called in. And I think that, a big part of our work together last year was your wedding and you getting married. And, it's something that I've had the privilege of holding um, and a number of women through this portal of marriage and specifically, not just the wedding, but the actual journey of the months surrounding that and everything that's involved on every level, materially, energetically, spiritually, emotionally. Like there's just so much that goes into it. So I it's sort of been a signature thing I've done with people in the past, but I had never had the opportunity to hold someone at the depth that I got to hold you, both before, during, and after. And so it was, it left a huge imprint on me, in being there with you. I'm so curious what that was like for you, not only to go through that journey of making that deep commitment, but also being held through that.
Oh, yeah. Um, I want to mention that even the engagement, and I
Mm.
remember writing this in the group at the time, but even the way I received the engagement felt really thanks to the work we had been doing. So I just want to say that like even the beginning, all the foundation of what made the wedding possible, the marriage possible, really felt tied to this work. Ah. I'll say like the wedding really like whipped my butt. Like it was so intense for me on so many levels. It was and not in a way that again it felt like the biggest gift of an experience because I grew so much and I received so much love and attention and there was opportunities for creation and collaboration and like it was almost like everything I loved wrapped up in one, and also all the things that were hard and scary for me at the same time. Um, and so one just that I had that support during this time was such a blessing because I really needed it. I needed it at every single point. I felt, whether it was talking through the financial aspects of it to my relationship with my parents and how that got activated during the wedding and um even like what would be in my vows and what felt honest and um to yeah, it's interesting. This I can feel. I'm like, wow, I still need like we did a lot of digestion work on the wedding, but I'm still digesting this experience. It's hard for me to find the words. It was so big. It was
Yes.
huge. This is a
Yeah.
huge experience. And even not like letting that be allowed, like I think I went in thinking, oh, it's just a weekend, it's just an event. Like it shouldn't be impacting me in this way. And I felt a lot of acceptance in our relationship to let it be the size that I'm experiencing it as, which was to me, it was huge. It was at so many moments too big. And so what are my options there? Like, can I hold more sensation? Can I breathe more? Can I ask for things? Can I remember that's not my problem? Like, it was really just a constant, I needed to be really connected to myself the whole time, and I really needed help. I really needed help moving through that. And then I'm remembering, I mean, I may go on for too long, so you might have to stop me, but like one thing I do want to mention that was that was really special, two things. One is before the wedding, a few days, I think before you had arrived in San Diego, you guided me through a ceremony, and I was really in a meditative state, so I barely remember most of it. But what I do remember is just connecting with like each version of me before. And that ceremony, bringing me back to myself and all parts of me before this big weekend was so crucial. So that's like one really practical way that I really felt your support so close. And then a desire I had, and I really talked myself out of it at the beginning, was I want Liv at my wedding. Like I want to see her face and I want to give her a hug and and maybe partially like I wanted, I guess you're holding then too. Like even in just knowing you were there, I felt more at ease in a way. And I even felt like st a little sturdier.
Mhm.
And so that was like an example of a desire that I I trusted, and then and we made it happen, and I'm so grateful. And it's funny, like in my more psychology training, it would be like a non-option to invite your coach like to a personal life event. But for me, it was like I really want and need that.
Mm.
I really want and need that.
Oh,
And so yeah, I'll pause there for a sec, but I really wanted and I really needed that.
yeah. I mean, I'm not neutral about this because I was there and it was amazing. So I just want to say that I am feeling a lot of emotion as you say that. But from a from my hosting this beautiful conversations hat, I just want to say that what a gorgeous example of knowing, you're going through something so big. And I've witnessed many people I love go through this portal, and I just think that it is often the case that we grossly underestimate the amount of support and holding. And so often in a wedding, everyone else has a different role. Everyone's doing a lot for the experience. And so to sort of say, like, there's one person I want here just for me, and just to know that they're there. They might not even need to necessarily do anything other than be, but I want that and I want to make that happen. I think that is such a gorgeous example of, as a woman going through something so big where it could be easy to just not go that far. You're already having a wedding, you're already doing all the things, but actually that's like an extra step of holding. And I was an absolute yes, and I was so honored, and I got to meet your family and your husband, and I just got to have these little moments with your ecosystem, your loved ones, your friends. I got to see the reality of your life and the life that we've been speaking into existence, the life that you'd already created, where you came from. I also got to be there with three other women that were also in the container, and three of our, we call them very beloved friends now. Like, it just that we were all there together, the four of us. And so I got this amazing weekend of not only witnessing you, but getting to be in person with these women. And so yeah, it holds true as a really special memory. And I want to acknowledge you because I think that you did a lot of adjusting in real time around that whole experience. And I think that is part of that skill building that comes in when we are doing desire work and we are checking in, what do I need, is we are willing to ask for things as we go along and change things. And I remember, after the wedding, the getting home, and I think we spent months and months. And as you say, it's still not fully digested. And I'm not surprised, like, what a huge life event. And we spent so much intentional time working through that experience so you could just take it in a little bit more and just receive a little bit more and make sense of what the fuck just happened. Not meaning anything other than everybody I love, was in one place and I got married. And, like the enormity of it is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still, even now, like j just this moment, I'm able to even receive like a little piece of it again. Like I'm still experiencing the wedding, which is so funny, but it's like I now have that understanding that like these events are so, I don't want to generalize. For me, it just meant so much. And um yeah, I was really like working to let all this love in, and like I'm still working on it. Like for people to show up the way that they did. And oh my gosh, I'm still, and maybe I will forever, I don't know, but I'm still experiencing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say I found myself when I came back from the wedding and I was kind of going back into my life, I found that really challenging. I was exhausted. I was sleeping 9, 10 hours. I almost felt like my immune system was down. Like physically it like really, no, I don't want to say it took a toll, because I think this is what I'm learning is part of the cycle of just like expansion and contraction. And so when I with your guidance like can be more at peace with that, it was really moments to, you know, sit with myself and listen to music and be still and write and collage and just like things that are like a little slower. And um that was like part of the way that I digested, but I definitely, the old programming had me worried. Like, was this too big? So I had to work through that with you, and I really needed your help in creating a new perspective of what was happening, because it was a big experience. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm.
I just want to say thank you because, um, yeah, again, just thank you for allowing me to be so close to you through that and trusted me and trusted the work we were doing together to hold you through that. And then just the opportunity to be there. I mean, and to your family as well. Such a beautiful, generous, lovely family.
Mm.
And yeah,
Mm.
and for anyone here who's a coach or holds other people to get to meet somebody's husband, and I remember your husband looking me in the eyes and just saying thank you and then you're and I get to say thank you to them, and just I'm so big on this work. This is professional work, and for me the most important thing that is human, and that at the center of it is full of care for who somebody is as a human being. And I think there's no greater privilege to get to go and witness that human being who you love and care for and have been with in this intimate way, to see them doing their life, to see them doing something big in their life, and to see the way that they are seen by their loved ones and cherished. And like to be in that energy was, extremely special, um, from this seat, as I'm sure it would be if you ever had that experience. I actually said to Vanessa, I said to you on your birthday recently, I hope that you've either had it already, but you have a Vanessa, because you have just been so beautiful to hold. And our work together, it was a sacred thread for me on my journey. I don't know whether now I'm no longer on my sabbatical. I have come back and I'm now building my one-to-one practice up again. Um, I don't know whether I would have done that if you and I hadn't had that sacred thread and carried on. That showing up to our cause and being able to pour my attention fully on one person. I'd never done that in my entire journey and career. And it felt so divinely led. And I think that I I just don't know if I would have come back, because the lights got to stay on. And I remember every session we have, I would feel immensely grateful that we were doing this, because I knew that it was going to benefit a lot of people in the future, both in your work and the practice you do with your clients, and also the future work that I was going to eventually come back to do with my future clients. And so you I will always remember that as one of the most kind of, um, to use our favorite expression, divinely orchestrated parts of um, our collaboration and our journey together. Yeah.
Mm. We're so lucky.
And you've just been the most gorgeous first guest in my interview series. So thank you.
Thank you, love.
And, you know, I, there's so many things we could continue on, but I want to just kind of honor our time and bring this to a beautiful close. And I'm curious if you could offer a message to another woman who is
Mm.
who is like you were back then, sort of listening, um, and sort of feeling, maybe she's feeling resonance, and what would you want her to know?
Mm. I feel clear on kind of the message, but I don't know if I have the words, so we'll see how it comes out. Um, but what's coming to mind is this the shift I experienced from like fearing parts of myself and making them mean something. Like if you were to assume that every part of you was on your side and intelligent and like they had something to say to you, like what would they say? And to let that inform how you move forward. And then just a very simple message of like trust yourself even more than you think you should.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. Mm, yeah. How can people find you? Is
Mm.
there something you'd like to tell us about what you're doing in the world currently and anything that you would like the audience to know?
Oh. Yes, I have finally created my website, which felt like a big coming out.
So big.
Yeah. So I would say come to my website. I put a lot of time into the wording and Liv also helped me find a way to express like the wizard box that I work with and like let that be part of my work. And that is braveheartpsych.com.
Mm.
Visit me there.
Well, wonderful. We will have a link so people can click it and find their way to you. Um, I say this with like the biggest sincerity of I just am so deeply proud of you. I really am. And I'm so grateful to know you and to have traveled with you in this way. And I'll be forever grateful. Yeah.
Me too, Lou.
Thank you so much for this time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.